my dears. All right, so today we're going over investigation 7. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, it's very short. There are 8 problems total. There is a little bit of writing in this investigation, well, typing, but it's not that bad. I think you're gonna be okay. So for part 1, we're gonna go over some vocabulary that I'm actually really familiar with because this is actually stuff that I study for social science. So first of all, this investigation is all about collecting data with surveys. But before we jump into that, I want to go over what we did in our last investigation, which was when we were doing all the graph work and learning about circle graphs and pictographs and all that sort of stuff. The reason I want to do that is because the data in graphs is usually collected by surveys. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So let me use an example from last time. So last time you guys had this pictograph, which is called Favorite Lunches of Students in Room 12. And in the above paragraph, it says that they are at Thompson School. Using this pictograph, you can tell how many students picked which different lunch in room 12. Obviously, the kids, in order to get that information, they had to take part in a survey. Sometimes surveys are called quizzes, but it's really a survey. A survey is a tool that researchers, scientists, news people, a lot of people really use to get specific information from a specific group of people. And that information is called data. They want to get that specific information, that data, about a particular group. Now, the group that they want the information on, the big group, is called population. Not to be confused with what's the population of Maine? It's a little different. In terms of surveys and data, population is everyone in the group that you are curious about. Who your population is depends on your question and who you want to know about. With our room 12 example, if we just want to know the favorite lunches of the kids in room 12, that those are the only people we care about, then they are our population. We only care about this specific group of kids at this specific school in this specific room. But maybe we don't just want to know about that specific classroom. Maybe we want to know about every kid at Thompson School. In that case, our population would be Thompson School. This brings us into our next vocabulary word thing that we're learning for this investigation. It's called sample. Now, the population is everyone in the group that you want to know about. Everybody that you want to know about. The sample are the actual people that you give the questions to, that you interview in some cases. They're the ones who actually take part in the survey. Now, if it's a small enough population, like if it's Thompson School or even Stepping Stones, that's a small enough population. We could probably ask, for example, every single student what their favorite lunch is. But there are some populations that are way too big to actually do that. For example, if I want to know what are the favorite school lunches of all American school kids, I might be able to get some schools to partake in that, but getting every single American school to partake in my survey, a lot of them probably wouldn't be able to do it for various reasons. So I would have to pick and choose different schools to actually give my survey, and they would be my sample. So going back to room 12, Thompson School, if I want to know what all the kids at Thompson School's favorite lunch is, that's my population. If I only ask the kids in room 12 what their favorite lunch is to figure out Thompson School's favorite lunches, then those kids in room 12 are my sample for my population of Thompson School. Yes. Okay, so now part 2. If you want to pause the video here and go work on the part 1 questions, you may, or you can just keep watching. Whatever works for you. Okay, so part 2, what kinds of questions can be used or should be used in surveys? When you create a survey, you have 2 options for what kind of question you want to make. You can either make a multiple choice question or you can make an open-ended question. A multiple choice question is one where in social science we generally call this person a participant. I don't know if there's another name for it, but that's the language I know, so I'm just going to say participant, the person who is taking the survey. A participant has a very narrow number of answers that they can actually have. They can only choose from the options that are given to them. It's these are your options, pick the best one. Open-ended questions, on the other hand, are questions that you ask that don't have any set answers to give. You can give whatever answer feels most appropriate to you. So for example, I can ask you, all right, between cats, dogs, and snakes, which one is your favorite? That's a multiple choice question. I'm asking, do you like cats, dogs, or snakes more? The open-ended version of that question would be, what's your favorite pet? Or what pet do you prefer? And just not even giving you any options and just waiting to see what you come up with. That is an open-ended question. That's the end of part 2. Part 3. So this one connects to the question thing I was just talking about, but it's kind of really important, and so it deserves its own part. Bias. Bias is something that's really difficult to explain. So I'm not going to try to explain what it is, but I'm going to explain how it works. I know that sounds a little weird, but bear with me. If I say, for example, that I am biased towards students who like cats, that means that I tend to favor these students. These are the students who will probably get more of my attention. I probably like them more. If I say I have a bias against students who like, I don't know, octopuses or octopods, whatever. If I say I have a bias against those students, that means that I probably don't like those students very much. I probably won't work with them as much. I probably just am not a fan of them as much. And that's what bias is. It's you favor something or you really dislike something in terms of favor, kind of. Bias, it's difficult to explain, like I said, but it's once you know what it is, you can kind of tell, like, oh yeah, I'm kind of biased towards people who like to play sports, or oh yeah, I'm kind of biased against people who like the color blue. You kind of notice these things once you know what bias sort of is. But when we're doing surveys, and when we're doing, in particular research with surveys, you really, really need to be careful of your biases. Because if you ask a question that's full of bias, then your results are going to be wrong. I'll give you an example. So if I asked someone just on the street randomly, I said, "Excuse me, would you prefer to have a gross, slimy dog lick your toes, or would you prefer a nice, lovely, cuddly kitten who just purrs softly on your stomach?" Most people would probably choose the purring cat because it sounds nicer, and the dog doesn't sound very great. It doesn't sound very pleasant. If I asked instead, like, would you prefer a cat or a dog? They might have different answers. In my first question, they might just pick the cat because the dog doesn't sound pleasant. The cat sounds very pleasant. But if I just say, would you prefer a cat or a dog? They don't have that kind of, not manipulative, but that kind of influencing factor. So with survey questions, you want them to be as unbiased as possible, just kind of as plain as possible, because you don't really want to influence your participants' answer one way or another. Again, with my cat-dog thing, if I ask people, which one do you prefer, the slimy dog or the sweet kitten, then people who might have just picked dogs as their favorite pet would probably change their answer and say that it's the cat. I'm not actually getting the true answer. I'm getting the answer that I want. And that's not really good, because if you have the wrong data, then your findings are kind of useless. So it doesn't help anybody, really. And yeah, that's it, really. So your questions are going to be all about what is a population, what is a sample, write me a multiple choice question, write me a open-ended question, write a biased question, write an unbiased question, stuff like that. So it's not a lot. It's really easy. It's only 8 questions. It is a bit of writing, but it's not that bad. There is some reading in there too that some of you might need help with. Most of it is just going over what I already just said, but it might be nice to just look that over too and just have that in your brain space. So go ahead and do those 8 questions. Again, if you have not done quiz number 3, Please do that afterwards. Now that I'm done being weird. Oh, next week is vacation week, so I'm not going to be posting any lessons or anything for next week. I'll maybe post some math games. You're always welcome to do the math games. So I'll see you next week. Yeah. All right. Bye.